morning. Yeah, I literally landed here 2 weeks ago, and that you can probably tell by my accent. I'm not a Kiwi. I'm a born German, Swiss immigrant, and now I'm trying to do the same thing with New Zealand. This said, I found a house, I found a school, and I found a car. So I'm very happy about the logistics that I could set up in the first 2 weeks, and now I can focus on HVN and my job at the Liggins. So I have prepared for you a little agenda of the next 15 minutes or so. So I will talk to you a bit more in detail about the health themes of our program. And you will notice that there is a nice balance between science push and business pull initiatives. And you will also see there is a very strong context, Joanne already alluded to this, between our Asian consumers to where we want to deliver our solutions and the genuinely good New Zealand food. And then I will give you a bit more detail on where we stand today, what has been achieved, and then where we want to go tomorrow. In doing so, I would like now to first focus on the major themes we are addressing, and there will be a few déjà vus already that Joanne has been alluding to. So we have a very strong focus on Asian consumers, and this is led by Plant and Food Research. I will come to this later in detail. We have a strong program in food science, so this means basically how to deliver ingredients and bring them into finalized food solutions. And then we have 3 health themes, as you know by now: GI health, immune health, and metabolic health. And you can see here aligned the leading institutions that are driving these programs. We have an initiative on infant health, which we will be revisiting today and in future workshops, and also an initiative on mobility. Mobility means basically muscular health and joint and bone health. Now, if we go a bit more into detail what we have, then we can say in terms of consumer, we of course need and want to understand and have already a much better understanding who are our Asian consumers. And Roger Harker will speak about that this afternoon at 1:50 p.m. And you can also see here the partners. So we have Auckland University Plant Food and Research, PricewaterhouseCoopers and Trace Research, and Otago University. Then we have the food context. So the solutions we want to deliver. And this is all about protecting and delivering food bioactives. You know that there's one thing to identify bioactives in the natural space, food chain, but then it's a big challenge to preserve them and to deliver them across the food chain. And Harjinder Singh is leading this from the Massey University, and Cawthorne and Otago and Egg Research are also involved. And then, of course, we don't do this in isolation. We do this in a larger context. And this means that we have to have a very good understanding of the intellectual property landscape, the retail environment, and the regulatory conditions. And Harjinder Singh will explain to you this in more detail this afternoon. This is driven by Massey University and also with support from Drummond Food Science Consulting. Now, if we look at the themes a bit more in detail and in the projects, so if we look into metabolism, we have a strong program here that is focused on preventing diabetes and managing weight, led by Sally Poppet. And this is the overarching health theme. And then we have 2 more applied projects, one with First Light, where we look into lipids from grass-fed beef, and another project where we look into kiwi food bioactives. And this is in collaboration with Zespri. By the way, I noticed meanwhile that there's a fine difference between kiwis and kiwi fruits. So now I know kiwis are birds, or you or us. Maybe I also become a kiwi, whereas kiwi fruits is the food. So I learned already something in the first 2 weeks, thanks to Bob, majorly. Then the second theme is immunity, and this is largely driven by the Mallaghan Institute. Liz Forbes-Blom is the PI behind this. And I will explain a bit more in the next couple minutes how we go about defending, improving defense against influenza and pollution, especially in Asian consumers. And again, we have the large overarching health theme, and underneath in the same box, we have a very concrete applied project where we look into natural milk to prevent allergy in collaboration with Miraka. The gut is the third theme, and you also may be aware of the gut-brain axis. This is a very important health context, and here we have, again, a biology-rooted long-term research program led by Nicole Roy Roy is the French version. I know she's from Quebec, so it still slips off my tongue. And this is on gastrointestinal health, comfort, and well-being, and we have a very concrete applied project here with A2 milk, where we look into a milk that has only a very special kind of casein, which is good for gut comfort. Mobility is about basically joint and muscular health, and there's actually a genuine New Zealand food, which are the green shell mussels that contain bioactives that may promote this health. And we also have a project on combining proteins from different food sources, so going beyond just one natural source, and combining these proteins for the sake of better muscular health. And in infant, we have a project on fibers for better sleep, and that is run by Otago and Victoria University, again in collaboration with Drummond Food Science. So you see the partners to the right, and especially the leading institutions to the left, plus the major commercial partners in this area. So if you map this out in 3 dimensions, my understanding, and I think this is something that may help you also to get an overview about the project, is the following. We have 3 very largely science-driven long-term programs, which I just mentioned. We have a number of very much more consumer-oriented applied projects and programs that are closer to the market. And we have a set of projects that are successfully already have begun to leverage the genuine goodness of New Zealand food items and products that we have, but adding value to them. So this is how this pans out, and I think this is a very powerful and program with a very good balance of translational, basic, long-term, and very much domestic food science. So where do we stand? So what do we have today? In the GI comfort space, we have basically, we are characterizing a cohort of consumers that have digestive problems. This happens in Asia. This is a cohort that has IBS, which stands for irritable bowel syndrome. So this is not a classical gut inflammation. It's a complication of with a lot of reduced comfort, and many consumers are suffering from this. And this is what we call the elite gut cohort of the worried well. The worried well are those consumers in Asia that are economically doing very well, and they're very concerned about their health, and they are ready to invest into food that promotes comfort, well-being, and also performance, by the way. So we are in the process of characterizing these consumers, and we are developing methods for this characterization, because you have to basically come up with biomarkers that clearly identify these consumers. In immune defense, we speak about improving defenses against cold and influenza, and also against the pollution-caused airway inflammation. And there is a very intriguing link, and there's evidence that actually the mucosa in the body, so the mucosa that are part of the airways, for example, and the mucosa that is part of the gut, actually do talk to each other, and that the microbiome that populates, for example, the gut, has an influence also on your immunity in the airways. So while it is physically appears to be separated, these systems talk to each other. And this program is run by Madigan Institute, and we have now designed a study that will address this link between the bacteria that populate your gut and how this influences the vaccine response when you are vaccinated against influenza. This has a very strong interplay. And we are also working on preclinical models, because whatever we can do in humans, we do in humans. but you cannot do everything in humans, so you need models, model systems, for example, in animals or cells, and we are establishing these models as we speak. In the metabolic space, it's about preventing diabetes and maintaining and managing weight, again with a focus on Asian consumers. We have designed a study that recruits Asians of the so-called TOFI phenotype. TOFI stands for thin on the outside, fat on the inside. So this basically means that these people are visibly okay, but the body composition is not okay. So they are not obese visibly speaking, but the fat inside the body sits in the wrong places and maybe actually too much depending on location. So this is a clear call for fine characterization of these people from the inside rather than just weighing them and measuring body composition. And again, we are developing the methods to do that. In Asian consumers, we have now a very good understanding and insight from literature and pre-competitive knowledge from either our domestic food and beverage companies or government agencies, but also from Asian academics. And Roger can tell you more. In terms of food bioactives, we are in the process of not only identifying the ingredients we want to deliver to the consumer, but also design the processes to protect them during food processing, and also thinking about timing of release in the body, because it matters where in the gut, for example, these food bioactives are released to exert their biological effect. You will hear about a lot more about the reports that have been delivered on markets, products, and intellectual property. In terms of combined proteins, we are looking into optimal uptake digestion of these proteins, and this is with a strong focus on muscle maintenance in Chinese elderly. You may know that when you age, typically you lose lean body mass or muscle mass. If this becomes pathological, then we speak about sarcopenia, and muscle loss in elderly is a big issue, especially in Asia, so we can address this. And then we have the infant, in terms of the infant program, we are looking into fibers, because as an addition to infant food, because these fibers are good for slow energy release over the night, during the night, and whoever has kids or knows this experience, that when babies sleep well, the whole family does better because you don't wake up. So this is actually aiming at a premium weaning food that's supposed to be consumed in the evening. The kiwi fruits have components that are, there's evidence that they are good for glucose tolerance, and we are recruiting an Asian cohort in which this will be tested. The natural milk product is something about processing milk less while making it still safe. So we have to be aware of the fact that the more you process, of course, this has reasons for food safety and also storage properties. Yet there is this so-called hygiene hypothesis that says we are living in such a clean environment that our immune system sometimes seeks something else to do because there's not so much to do in terms of infective threats. So in this particular context, it is important to think about how you can process milk less in order to provide a more natural source like we had closer to the older days, in order to educate the immune system properly. In the special casein milk project, we look into a milk that contains only one subform of casein. This is the beta A2 beta subform. Milk has basically two big bulk protein groups. This is caseins and whey. And this particular milk has only one subform, and there's evidence that this can be beneficial for GI comfort, especially for those people that perceive themselves as intolerant against dairy products. And the status is that we have the milk samples, and the PhD is hired to clarify these benefits. Then we look into grass-fed beef and the lipids. So this is something which I find also very interesting, because beef is typically not associated with cardiovascular health, for example. And in this particular case, we're looking into cholesterol control. But there's evidence that the lipids that come from this grass-fed beef, so what you would say it's organic beef, are maybe beneficial for cholesterol control. And this is again leveraging a genuinely good New Zealand food into a higher value and an added value for health. And then we have also a seafood project in which I have a particular interest because I love mussels and seafood. And this is about bioactives that can promote joint and bone health that derive from the mussels that you are producing here in New Zealand at large scale, or we are producing at large scale, I should say. And we are in the process of analyzing these bioactives in these mussels. Again, you can see the first step is always assessing the quality and the ingredients we are focusing on. This is a slide where people typically say, I don't want to go into much detail, which means you can't read it. But what I want to make the point about is that we have more than what I've just told you. So we have actually here our major players, Massey, Ag Research, Otago University, Auckland, and Plant and Food Research. And you can see here, I don't dare to put the pointer because I think it's, there it is. There you can see that we have a number of different projects here, and the funding volume differs from institution to institution. But you can see this is a large program, and you basically get here in these 50 minutes the top level summary, and we have more than what I have listed in the previous slides. I see I have 3 minutes 40, so that looks pretty good. The excitement usually adds to the speed. So I want to wrap up by just sharing with you where we want to go tomorrow. So the clear goal is to complete this phase 1 research, which we have launched, and Joanne has talked about this in detail. We want to strengthen the science focus and define a science plan for the coming years, together with you, with input from you. Remember, science push, business pull. This is the equilibrium we need. And this is also, by the way, my culture, because I've been working with Nestle for most of the last 10 years, but always in an academic setting. So I'm used to this interface, and I have now swapped sides, being employed at the university, but reaching again out into the private sector. And I think this is where it actually happens. This is what we call translational science that can be converted into success. And then we are aiming at supporting product claims and commercialization in these business-led projects. So these are those projects that are classified as contestable and also are leveraging the genuine New Zealand food items that you have seen. So we want to support this in terms of claim and commercialization development. And of course, we want to initiate, this is one of the major goals, at least for me, apart from getting to know you, is really to initiate further HVN industry co-investments. So I am building, for example, a group at the Liggins Institute, and I'm very much open to work with you on one or the other projects, and then we can see how we can co-fund and drive this together. And then we want, of course, to to develop our profile at national and international level. Actually, when I talk about national level, it's more for me traveling around and learning. So I have already, my calendar is filling up with a number of upcoming meetings in this space. I've listed here a few icons here. The IUNS, we will be in Buenos Aires in next October, and have actually a satellite symposium where we brand HVN on this congress. This is a huge nutrition congress. Then I'm actually member of the Nutrigenomics organization, so this goes back to my European roots, and this is the biggest club, so to say, of nutrition and genomics scientists in Europe that has a branch that is called the APNO. This is the middle blue logo here, which is the Asian Nutrigenomics organization. So this is not just a bunch of people that meet and have a good time and discuss science, they also do collaborations. And this is what I want to bring among many other things to you and to New Zealand. So we want to raise that profile. So this is what I have told you. I hopefully you have by now, thanks to Joanne and myself, and also Bob, an idea about the themes we are working on, about the balance between very much applied, already close to product projects, where we need a long-term perspective at the same time, science-driven, It's very clear that we want to deliver the goodness of New Zealand food, adding value, and deliver these solutions to Asia. And hopefully you have now a bit more concrete idea what has happened so far and where we want to go. With this, I would like to thank you for your attention. And it's 0000. So this either it has been reset or I'm well on time. And with this, I would like to ask the master of the ceremony to show you a video, which is actually a summary of the last HVN Science Symposium, and also gives nice credit to our predecessors in the team, and it gives you a bit of a flavor of where the science stands and about the context. Thank you very much.
We set ourselves two quite challenging long-term goals, and you've heard about one of them. Perhaps more importantly, in the enduring change we want to bring about, an enhancement in New Zealand's international reputation as a producer of high-quality foods with scientifically validated health benefits.
So how do you turn behaviours that are entrenched, price, into something where they make choices where we are able as a country to sell a high-value product?
The innovation imperative runs through this. These challenges that I put up here are solved via deeper, better, bolder and bigger ideas. That's the fuel source for the modern economy of America, of Australia, and New Zealand is ideas.
Globally, overweight and obesity is approaching 2 billion and rising. China's been confirmed as the largest global burden.
One of the vital connections between nutrition and the immune system is the 100 trillion gut microbiota that live predominantly in our gastrointestinal tract.
We have already seen these advances in science that the previous speakers have highlighted. The legislation is by far not ready to cope with that.
We need to use the New Zealand advantage, to use new ways of structuring protein to create the new type of protein-enriched exemplar foods.
The ultimate goal is to design, develop and validate food to support an elite gut for the very well Asian consumer.
In all of those conversations when we talk to consumers, health was one of the most important reasons for choosing foods.
Food will become a knowledge industry. And the value proposition is simple. What's my health status now? What would I like it to be? How do I get there?
If anyone has a chance to find something special about functional foods, I think it probably is here in New Zealand.
Really, there's a lot of ability for these different themes of research, these different areas or domains of research to cross-pollinate with each other and really help each other. And I think something that's really come out repeatedly throughout the conference is the ability for people to work together, that collaborative approach, which I think inevitably will lead to advances that are more than the sum of the parts.